Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome once again to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel as always, youtube.com/NoDQCAW, trying to reach 40,000 subscribers by January 1st. So if you enjoyed today's video, please share it with friends and family. Anybody you know who watches wrestling, have them check out NoDQ&A video. With that being said, let's get right down to your questions via spring.me/AaronRift. First one today comes from CIOGER. Hey Aaron, what is your personal opinion on the Survivor Series card? I think it's a meh 6 out of 10. Wait a minute, isn't it supposed to be 4 out of 10? Regardless, here's my thoughts on Survivor Series. I think that it's definitely one of the weaker Survivor Series cards in terms of the build-up and overall interest in the matches. I think that in terms of the match quality, I would say it's around average. Let's start at the top. Big Show versus Randy Orton. It should be an okay match. I don't think there's going to be a lot of crowd heat for this match. That's just the gut feeling that I have. I think that a lot of the heat and a lot of the interest is with Big Show and Triple H. WWE really hasn't done a lot to build up Orton and Big Show. I think that the match people will be most interested in is Big Show versus Triple H. So not really feeling this one a whole lot. I don't think a lot of the audience is going to be into this match. But I could be wrong. And, they've had matches in the past. They had a match actually earlier this year at Extreme Rules, and it was okay. Nothing special. And now it's for the WWE title. I just don't know if this match is going to amount to anything, and certainly on paper it doesn't sound all that exciting. Moving on, we have John Cena versus Alberto Del Rio. Because it's John Cena, I think that you'll have the crowd heat in that match. It's in his hometown, but that doesn't really mean anything. People are still going to boo him. I'm sure it'll be the usual 50-50 reaction. So that match will have the crowd heat. It should be a good match. I'm sure the storyline will be, Alberto Del Rio working over the injured John Cena and, his tricep injury and trying to re-injure him. So it should be fine. But I don't think it's going to be anything out of the ordinary for your usual WWE pay-per-view. As far as the other matches go, you have the traditional Survivor Series match. On paper, that sounds like it'll be a good match, and I'm sure it will be. That should be a fun match. And CM Punk and Daniel Bryan versus the Wyatts, because it's CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, I think the match will have some good heat, and it should be all right. I think Punk and Bryan will carry it, and it'll be fine. But yeah, there's nothing on this card that really stands out to me like it's going to be something out of the ordinary, something that you don't already see on Monday Night Raw every week. So going in, I'm not expecting a lot. My expectations are quite low, actually. I will be happy if this turns out to be an average WWE pay-per-view. And I'm thinking it's going to be in that 6 out of 10 range, as you mentioned. All right, this one comes from Chris Mace, 2013. If you were to induct Scott Hall into the Hall of Fame, would you induct him by himself or with the original NWO members or with Kevin Nash as the Outsiders, as they were such a successful run as a tag team? Okay, here's how I would do it. I would induct Scott Hall and Kevin Nash on their own, just based alone on their WWE accomplishments. Scott Hall should go in as Razor Ramon and Kevin Nash should go in as Diesel. And then, sometime down the line, you induct the NWO as a group, and that way you get Hall in there, Nash, X-Pac, and maybe even a few other guys, the Giant, Big Show in there, and you just have the NWO go in as a group, just like you had Ric Flair go in one year, and then you had the Four Horsemen go in as a group, and most likely, DX will go in as a group, and then Triple H will go in on his own, and Shawn Michaels is already in on his own. So that I think is the best way to go, and have Hall and Nash go in twice. Once individually and then the second time as part of the NWO. Next question here. Please answer in video. If TNA gets on the verge of closing, could you see Jeff Jarrett signing a deal with WWE again? I know him and Vince McMahon are not on speaking terms, but they have let lots of wrestlers who have screwed him over in the past come back. Jeff Jarrett is one of those guys one of the few exceptions where I don't think WWE is going to bring him back. I could be wrong. Bruno Sammartino came back, so anything is possible. But I think the odds are that Jeff Jarrett will never appear in a WWE ring again. Would he go into the Hall of Fame? Would WWE even consider him as a Hall of Famer? I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, Jeff Jarrett has the legacy, him and his father. They started TNA. Perhaps one day, if TNA goes under and WWE buys out the TNA assets, maybe they would consider bringing Jarrett in. I don't know. But if I had to say yes or no, I would definitely lean towards no. It's not going to happen. But like I said, you can't really rule anything out. I mean, there's always the possibility that Vince would have a change of heart and would be willing to do business with Jeff Jarrett again. I think he would only do it if he really felt it was a good business move to work with Jarrett again, and there was some kind of financial gain out of having a relationship again. But at this point, I just don't think so. All right, this one comes from B Hinder 1. What do you think of the WWE not including the triple threat match main event from WrestleMania 20 in the Shawn Michaels WrestleMania DVD? Well, I totally understand WWE not wanting to have that match on the DVD, but I think it's a little overboard. I don't think it's necessary to leave out that match. I think you can include it in the Shawn Michaels DVD set, and it was a very significant match. Maybe they didn't want to put it in because it's a match where Benoit won and you had the whole celebration after the match. I think it's easier to have a Chris Benoit match on a DVD where he plays a minor role and he doesn't actually win the match. You know, something like, for example, the Money in the Bank from WrestleMania 21. You know, Benoit was in that match, but you know, you can edit him out as much as possible, and you know, he wasn't a huge factor in the finish. I mean, he was the guy that Edge hit with the chair and knocked him off the ladder to win, but you know, you don't have to show him all that much. With the WrestleMania 20 match, I mean, it was built around Chris Benoit, and it was all about his story. So, you know, I completely understand why WWE didn't want to include that match, but, you know, it would have been nice to have it on. I think you could have put it on there, and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. I think it's a bigger deal to leave him out of it than to just throw him in there and not make a huge deal out of it. All right, this one comes from Charles Fome. Hey Aaron, do you think TNA is going in a better direction now that Hogan and Bischoff are gone? Although there are still areas they can improve on. I think the show has gone a lot better since the summer. I agree with you that the show has definitely shown improvement. The product has gotten a little bit better. You know, it was long overdue to get rid of Hogan and Bischoff. When something's not working, you have to change and you have to experiment and try something else. The problem with Hogan and Bischoff is that they were there way too long. And I've said this before in previous videos. When the Monday Night War experiment failed, that should have been the end of Hogan and Bischoff. They were hired to try to help compete, have TNA compete with WWE, and it didn't work. And, you know, they failed to do their job. So you let them go. And Vince Russo, they kept him around way too long. He was there for a few years, and nothing much was changing. Although to Bischoff or to Russo's credit, TNA's highest numbers in terms of ratings was when Russo was in charge during 2009 when the Main Event Mafia was at its peak. That was actually when TNA was doing their best business, and they were doing pay-per-views on the road, and they were drawing respectable crowds. So, you know, Hogan and Bischoff came in, and things just went downhill. So, you know, they should have been gone a long time ago, and they were there way too long. So, yeah, any change at this point is a good change. You need to experiment. You need to have some fresh people in there, people that have a new vision of what kind of direction they want to take the company, and you just got to try different things. All right, this last one today comes from Chris Joshua 10. Hey Aaron, love the show and first time asker. Do you think we could ever see Daniel Bryan going for the World Heavyweight title again after being messed around with the WWE Championship? Keep up the good work from London. I certainly see it as a possibility. I mean, WWE can always go in that direction and have Daniel Bryan versus John Cena in a big rematch from the SummerSlam pay-per-view. And as a matter of fact, it would not surprise me to see that match happen at some point for the title. and you can focus on the WWE title picture with Orton or Big Show, Triple H, whatever you want to do with that. And they could even do it as soon as TLC, have Daniel Bryan and John Cena in the rematch. So I think it's inevitable that you do that match, just because a lot of people want to see that rematch. But I don't know if Daniel Bryan's going to be the world champion anytime soon, especially with WrestleMania looming. I think that in all likelihood they're going to keep the belt on Cena. But maybe after WrestleMania you could go back to John Cena and Daniel Bryan and have Bryan win again. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. Although it would surprise me to see Bryan beat Cena a second time. That I would be very shocked to see. But yeah, I mean, at some point it definitely could happen. All right, that'll wrap it up for this edition of No DQ&A video. Thanks as always for watching. Don't forget Survivor Series is this coming Sunday. NoDQ.com has got you covered with live results and all the latest breaking news regarding Survivor Series. So stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. And for those of you still watching right now, got one more question here. Little bonus question from Jose, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. Sorry about that. Hey Aaron, what do you think is next for The Miz? I think this heel turn will be good for him and his career. Well, I think it had to be done. I mean, I was a big supporter of the idea of The Miz turning babyface. I think that he had a lot of momentum back in 2011, and fans were doing the catchphrases with him, and it felt like him as a babyface would be a huge success. Maybe even a smaller version of The Rock, when The Rock turned babyface and would do all the catchphrases, and the crowd would be behind him. So it felt like that was the right way to go. But when they pulled the trigger with it, it just didn't work. I mean, more times than not, The Miz came off too arrogant, I think, and unlikable as a babyface. And then it got to the point where the heels were beating him up, and the heels were getting cheered, and that was a sign right there that it wasn't working. When Randy Orton was beating up The Miz in his hometown and the crowd was cheering it, that was a bad sign. And then when Big Show knocked out The Miz and it got a huge pop, I mean, that was a point where you knew something had to change, and he had to go back to being a heel. And he was getting lost in the shuffle too as a babyface. He was doing the Miz TV segments, and it just didn't feel right, him as a babyface. So I'm glad they put him back in a heel role again, and we'll see what happens with him. Hopefully it'll work out and he can gain back some of the momentum that he lost. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. And on that note, I'll see you guys next time for more No DQ&A video.